Hello there, I'm Karifa Zachary and you're watching All 24 News World News Program. Up next are the top stories. Somalia rejects Zionist plans to export Middle East conflict and reaffirms no concessions on Somaliland. Also in our news, winter storm worsens Gaza suffering as 8 groups warn of catastrophe, and prisoner abuse is also reported in Ramon prison. Next, Zelensky and Trump hold talks in Florida on Ukraine war settlement plan, saying that they have reached or almost reached a settlement, while Lavrov issues warnings to Europe. And later on, Sudanese army airstrikes target RSF in South Kordofan, killing dozens and destroying vehicles near Kadugli. Stay with us for the details shortly. Welcome back. It's great to have you with us tonight. First up in our news, Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud says Somalia will not allow the Zionist entity to bring Middle East conflicts onto its territory. Speaking at an extraordinary session of Parliament, he stressed Somalia's firm rejection of any foreign military bases or efforts to turn the country into a platform for wars against its neighbors.
Israel and its Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are attempting to drag the territory of the Federal Republic of Somalia into the wars of discord they have ignited in the Middle East. We categorically affirm that our territory will not be used as a base for launching attacks against any other country. In this context, we call upon our brotherly and friendly nations and all relevant continental and regional institutions to stand with us in our diplomatic and legal efforts aimed at defending our territorial sovereignty and protecting it from the extremist policies of Netanyahu's government.
On the same occasion, President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud reaffirmed Somalia's rejection of the displacement of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip, stressing that this position remains unchanged.
The Somali people will never accept any form of forced displacement of the Palestinian people or their relocation to any part of Somali territory. We have previously expressed our rejection of this proposal, and today we reiterate our firm stance against displacement of Palestinians to Somalia. Somalia firmly believes in the two-state solution and considers these attempts a deliberate effort to undermine this path and deprive the Palestinian people of the legitimate right to establish their independent state with East al-Quds as its capital.
Addressing Parliament, Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has dismissed claims of any agreement nor concessions regarding the Somaliland region, stressing that Somalia is a sovereign state with its own system. He said reports suggesting otherwise are false and affirmed that the Zionist premier has no authority nor the right to interfere in or make decisions about Somali affairs.
Somalia is an established state with institutions, legitimacy and internationally recognized sovereignty. We will not accept any attempt to undermine its unity or impose a fait accompli that contradicts the will of the Somali people. Every state has its own borders and no external party has the right to violate them or redraw them. What is happening constitutes a clear violation of international law and a dangerous transgression of the principles of international legitimacy.
Somalia's president reaffirmed the country's unity, institutional legitimacy, and recognized sovereignty, rejecting any attempt to undermine them or override the will of the Somali people.
This is a sovereign state with its own system, and no party has made or will make any concessions. What has been said about an agreement or declaration in December is not true. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has no authority or right to interfere or make decisions concerning Somalia. It is a single state that cannot be divided into 2 or 3. Rumors of agreement or special agreements is nothing but unfounded claims.
In a related move, the Arab League held an emergency meeting on Sunday to condemn the Zionist entity's recognition of the so-called Somaliland region. Somalia's envoy to the League, Ali Abdi Awari, said the Zionist occupation's move amounts to direct aggression, threatening Arab national security and Red Sea navigation, urging Arab states to take a firm stand against the repeated aggressions.
Somalia considers the action by the Zionist entity not merely an aggression against another Arab nation, but a direct violation of the international security system and a threat to the security of the Red Sea region. Accordingly, the Federal Republic of Somalia calls on its sister Arab nations to stand in solidarity with Somalia in the face of ongoing Zionist aggression.
Somalia's envoy said Somalia will not be part of any attempt to displace Palestinians from their land, stressing that the country will work to thwart such plans and confront Zionist ambitions.
The despicable act cannot be separated from the ongoing genocidal actions carried out by the Zionist entity. It is part of a broader pattern of spreading chaos, fueling separatist conflicts, and waging a genocidal war against our brotherly Palestinian people. Today, this entity is extending its support to separatist movements in Somalia.
In the same context, the League of Arab States has declared the Zionist entity's recognition of the secession of Somalia's northwest region, known as Somaliland, worthless and void and a clear violation of international law. In a statement issued after an extraordinary meeting of permanent representatives, the League said the move threatens international peace and constitutes an attack on Arab national security. It also denounced what it described as a dangerous Zionist attempt to redraw the geopolitical map of the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea off Somalia's coast.
The affirmation that this illegal Israeli recognition forms part of Israel's attempts as the illegal occupying power to undermine international peace and security, and that it constitutes an attack on Arab national security, necessitates the adoption of legal, economic, political, and diplomatic measures against it. We express full support and solidarity with the position of the Somali state, which has affirmed that any action recognizing the secession of Somali's northwest region, the so-called Somaliland region, is null and void and unacceptable. Such actions represent a flagrant violation of the principles of international law, constitute blatant interference in Somalia's internal affairs, and amounts to a complete violation of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Somalia. They would undermine regional peace and security and exacerbate political tensions in Somalia, the Red Sea, and the Gulf of Aden and the Horn of Africa. We condemn in the strongest terms Israel's recognition on December 26, 2025 of the secession of Somalia's northwest region, the so-called Somaliland, which is driven by unacceptable political, security, and economic agendas. We also categorically reject any measures stemming from this invalid recognition that seek to facilitate plans for the forced displacement of the Palestinian people or the exploitation of northern Somali ports to establish military bases. We view these Israeli actions as a dangerous attempt to reshape the geopolitical landscape of the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea off the Somali coast. We therefore call on the international community to confront these actions as a threat to regional and international peace and security, as well as to freedom of navigation and international trade.
In the same context, the Arab League reaffirmed its rejection of any use of Somali territory, in whole or in part, by external powers as a base for hostile or intelligence activities that would threaten the security and stability of other countries.
We reaffirm our unequivocal rejection of any use of the territory of the Federal Republic of Somalia or any part thereof by external actors as a platform or launching pad for hostile or intelligence activities targeting other countries or in ways that undermine their security and stability. We also request the General Secretariat, in cooperation and coordination with the government of the Federal Republic of Somalia, the African Union Commission, the United Nations, and the Arab states bordering the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, to develop a joint Arab-African action plan to prevent any change to the existing security and geopolitical situation and to avert any threat to the interests of Arab and African states in this vital region.
Meanwhile, the UN Security Council is set to hold an emergency session on Monday over the Zionist entity's recognition of a breakaway region in Somalia. The meeting and the agenda threats to international peace and security follows an urgent request from Somalia's federal government, which says the move is a direct attack on its sovereignty and territorial integrity. The Zionist entity's recognition of the self-declared Republic of Somaliland has triggered growing concern across the Horn of Africa, raising questions about the real motives behind the move and its wider regional implications. Here's Islam Sid with the report.
The decision to recognize Somaliland as an independent state, separate from the Federal Republic of Somalia, has placed the strategic Horn of Africa back in the international spotlight. The region, which overlooks the Gulf of Aden and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, one of the world's most vital maritime corridors, is seen as far too sensitive for such a move to pass quietly. While the Zionist entity has framed the recognition as a diplomatic step, analysts argue it fits into a long-term strategy aimed at reshaping power dynamics in the Red Sea and securing influence along critical shipping routes. Experts say the move cannot be viewed in isolation, especially given the entity's expansionist ambitions and growing military footprint beyond the Middle East. According to analysts, the plan goes even further. Media reports suggest Somaliland could be financially incentivized as part of a broader effort linked to the displacement of Palestinians from Gaza, turning the region into a potential pressure valve for an unresolved humanitarian crisis. Observers warn this recognition risks creating a new security vacuum in the Horn of Africa, opening the door to intensified international rivalry in a region already struggling with instability. Somalia, which has Africa's longest coastline, remains particularly vulnerable to such geopolitical maneuvering. The move also revives a long-standing strategy dating back to the mid-20th century, in which the Horn of Africa has occupied a central place in the Zionist entity's regional calculations. Beyond immediate geopolitical interests, analysts say the recognition sends a broader message that redrawing borders and undermining state sovereignty can be used as tools to reshape regions, deepen divisions, and spread instability. The backlash has been swift. 21 Arab and Islamic countries have condemned the move, reaffirming their support for Somalia's unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. They warn that recognizing Somaliland violates international law, the UN Charter, and threatens peace and security not only in Africa, but along one of the world's most critical maritime corridors. As tensions continue to rise from Gaza to the Horn of Africa, many fear this decision could have far-reaching consequences, deepening instability in an already fragile region.
Moving on to the Gaza file now, a young Palestinian woman was killed Sunday when the wall of a war-damaged house collapsed onto a tent near Gaza City's port. The tent, sheltering displaced residents, also left several others injured, Palestinian media reported. And in the meantime, Gaza's Health Ministry Director General Munir al-Bursh said the Zionist occupation has killed 20,000 children and seriously injured 44,000 during its attacks on Gaza. He added that 156 children were born with inborn defects and condemned the systematic targeting of Palestinian children from the outset, aiming to harm their health, development, and the demographic future of the Palestinian people. Heavy winter rains have flooded displacement camps in southern Gaza, worsening already dire humanitarian conditions for thousands of Palestinians living in fragile tents. Zara Frajani reports now.
Overnight downpours turned displacement camps in Khan Yunis into pools of muddy rainwater, flooding tents and washing through makeshift shelters used by families displaced by the war.
We were basically drowning in water last night. The wind was strong and the tent flew away and is now full of holes. We have no shelter, nothing.
Makeshift tents made of wood, fabric and plastic sheets offered little protection as rainwater pooled between shelters and families worked to secure what remained of their homes.
We suffered all night. The water entered the tent and the rain flooded everything. We couldn't even retrieve our belongings.
Children waded through cold, muddy water near their tents, while women wrung out soaked mattresses and blankets, trying to dry belongings damaged by the flooding.
When we woke up, the water had entered the tent. Everything was soaked. The mattresses and my daughter's belongings, nothing was left.
The wind was very strong last night. The tarpaulin was blown away and the tent was torn. We are trying to do something just to shelter ourselves.
Aid agencies warn that continued bad weather and the lack of proper shelters are increasing the risks faced by displaced families, as much of Gaza remains uninhabitable after years of destruction caused by the Zionist occupation.
Still with the Palestinian stories, the Palestinian Prisoners Media Office reported a severe escalation at the entity's Ramon prison this December, describing systematic collective punishment. In a statement on Sunday, the office said prisoners face a struggle for survival with three violent raids on December 14th, 16th, and 19th involving cell assaults and indiscriminate attacks. It added that these measures aim to break prisoners' will through neglect, physical abuse, and psychological torture. Meanwhile, in the occupied West Bank, occupation forces carried out daily raids and arrests on Sunday, detaining 7 Palestinians, including recently released prisoner. The Palestinian Information Center reported that homes were stormed, residents abused, and several families were forced outside in the rain and cold during the operations. Elsewhere in the Middle East, the Zionist occupation stepped up its aggression in Syria, carrying out shooting operations in Qunait on Saturday evening. Syrian media reported machine gun fire targeting Tel al-Ahmar al-Sharqi and an advance into the village of Taranga, reaching near Jubatha al-Kashab in northern Qunait. The UN Security Council, meanwhile, will hold a session Monday to discuss the situation in the occupied Golan Heights, reviewing the Secretary General's report amid the ongoing Zionist attacks and settlement expansion in the area. And on Sunday, the President of the Republic of Algeria, Abdelmajid Tebboune, chaired a cabinet meeting. During the meeting, the draft organic law on political parties incorporating amendments requested by political group was approved. President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune said the changes aim to strengthen the law, calling it one of the most democratic, and congratulating Algeria's political community on this step forward. On the organic law on elections, he ordered a careful review of technical amendments, distinguishing procedural from substantive changes. He also postponed a technical constitutional amendment to ensure a thorough study, reinforcing the democratic gains of the independent National Election Authority. Still with Algeria-related news, Francesco Raine, CEO and chairman of Spanish company Naturgy, praised the strong trade ties between Algeria and Spain. In an interview with El Mundo on Saturday, he described Naturgy's partnership with Algeria as a testament to stable, long-term relations and expressed hope for its continuity. Raines also criticized Europe's reliance on American gas, noting that it drives up costs through liquefaction, transportation, and regasification. Moving on now to another topical development, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Florida for high-stakes talk with U.S. President Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago as diplomatic efforts to end the war with Russia reach a critical phase. More on this story with Yassine Rektina.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky met with US President Donald Trump in Florida on Monday, hoping to advance a stalled peace plan with Moscow. At the entrance to Trump estate, the US President described the meeting as promising.
We have the makings of a deal that's good for Ukraine, good for everybody. It's very important. There's nothing more important, my book. We settled 8 wars, and this is the most difficult one. I thought it would be in the middle of the pack. This is the most difficult one, but we're going to get it done. We're going to have a great meeting today. This gentleman has worked very hard, and he's very brave, and his people are very brave.
Zelensky said he hopes the talks will bring peace as quick as possible, with discussions expected to focus on an updated US-brokered 20-point peace plan. Moscow, however, has yet to officially support the proposal.
I agree with President. Our teams, they do what they can. And I think that during last month they moved forward with negotiations, and the Americans, thank you very much for your team, Steve and Charlie. And they worked very well, I think. They worked on different documents. I hope that all these documents can bring peace as quick as possible.
Ahead of the meeting, Trump spoke with the Russian President Vladimir Putin, describing the call as very good and productive. The Kremlin also said the call took place in a friendly atmosphere, adding that both leaders agreed to continue discussions by phone after Trump's talks with Zelensky.
Donald Trump listened attentively to Russia's assessment of the realistic prospects for reaching an agreement, as well as our president's very detailed arguments on the fundamental importance of continuing to rely on the fundamental Russian-American understandings reached during the Anchorage summit and numerous contacts between representatives of the two administrations. A final cessation of hostilities requires, first and foremost, Kiev to make a bold, responsible political decision in line with the work being carried out through the Russian-American channel. Given the evolving situation on the front lines, it would make sense for the Ukrainian regime to make this decision regarding Donbass without delay. Donald Trump insistently promoted the need to end the war as quickly as possible.
Back in Kyiv, citizens followed developments with cautious optimism as fighting on the ground continued.
No, I don't think this can happen because we've seen previous negotiations and agreements. And then a day or two ago, yesterday, there was an attack again. I think Russia is going to drag it out as much as it can. I'm confident that nothing is going to change. It's going to be a long chain of negotiations without any result.
Earlier on Sunday, President Zelensky emphasized that while Ukraine is committed to peace, key decisions depend on support from international partners. In this context, he called for increased pressure on Moscow, describing the period as one of the most active diplomatic phases of the year. At the same time, Moscow urged Ukraine to withdraw its forces from Donbass, arguing that a temporary ceasefire would only prolong the conflict. In a further warning, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said any European troops deployed in Ukraine would be considered legitimate targets. As talks focus on sticking points on territory, security guarantees and economic issues, the question is whether these negotiations can finally bring a fragile path to peace in Ukraine.
A spokesperson for the Russian-controlled Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant confirmed the situation as stable, with power supplied through a single high-voltage line. RIA Novosti reported Sunday that an IAEA team is monitoring repair work near the plant after a ceasefire brokered by the agency, with operations expected to continue for several days. In Africa, the Sudanese army said it carried out airstrikes on rapid support forces positions in South Kordofan. Local media reported that drone targeted an RSF gathering south of Borno, killing dozens of fighters and destroying military vehicles. The RSF had been assembling near Takata station close to Kadugli, the state capital, in preparation for an attack. Elsewhere in Europe, Bulgaria will join the Eurozone next Thursday, becoming the 21st country to adopt the euro. The government says the move will boost financial stability, attract investment, and reduce geopolitical pressures, including Russian influence. Eurobarometer polls show public opinion is divided, with 49% opposing the change.
Ultimately, this was inevitable since the signing of Bulgaria's accession documents to the EU. Adopting the euro has been part of their requirements. First and foremost, this step will lead to a stronger integration of our economy. In conclusion, our central bank will at least become a full member of the European Central Bank family and will have the right to participate in the decision-making process.
And speaking of currency change, Syria's central bank, in the Middle East that is, or Syria's central bank, Governor Abdul Qadir al-Hasriya announced a new national currency in 6 denominations to stabilize the local currency and ease circulation. Speaking in Damascus, he said the new lira equals 100 old liras, stressing that removing zeros changes only the nominal value without affecting the purchasing power and aims to make cash handling easier without expending the money supply.
إن إصدار هذه العملة الجديدة
The issuance of this new currency is the result of a long and meticulous foundational effort based on a comprehensive and long-term strategic vision aimed at rebuilding the Syrian financial system and achieving an efficient and secure banking sector. In designing and issuing this currency, the Central Bank of Syria adhered to internationally recognized standards in the areas of security, anti-counterfeiting, and ease of circulation.
وسهولة التداول.
Moving on to another story, but this time in Europe, Serbian university students collected signatures demanding early parliamentary elections. Despite freezing temperatures, they set up nearly 500 stands across dozens of towns and villages, leading a nationwide movement against the current authorities.
I think this is an opportunity for all of us to gather and show our support to the student, but also to support ourselves as citizens. I think the elections will definitely be next year. The most likely is that the government will fall.
The purpose of today's action is to show the scale of support for the student movement. People come and leave their signatures, of course, voluntarily, along with some of their information so that we can later provide them with updates about our next steps and actions.
Still with election news, this time in Africa, Guineans went to the polls on Sunday morning to elect a new president in the country's first election since the 2021 coup, with the opposition entering the race in a weakened position. Salman Asep has more.
In Conakry, across Guinea, long queues of voters formed outside polling stations yesterday, marking the country's first elections in 4 years. After a prolonged period of political tension, protest and a military transition, Guineans finally have the chance to cast their ballots and restore constitutional order. Since the last election, Guinea has experienced a deep political crisis. Protests and violence shook the nation, while the electoral calendar was suspended, leaving the country without any clear democratic timetable. For many, yesterday's vote was both a relief and a statement of hope. We want good things, good projects. Whoever is elected president, we ask that he shows compassion towards citizens, whoever he may be, that he'll be good to the people, because the people are suffering. There is no doubt about that.
I was able to vote to show that I'm a free citizen in Guinea. That is why I voted as a free supporter in Guinea. The voting is going very well, and we thank God for this good start. May it end in the same way.
In the queues, many already feel relieved, and many praise the organization of the vote. And as the country awaits a return to constitutional order, every ballot placed in the box counts. All Guineans must vote. Today is voting day. You have the right, so vote for the person you want. As they say, and nothing will happen. No one should be afraid. Throughout the day, polling stations stayed open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., allowing nearly 7 million Guineans to vote. 9 candidates, including General Mamadi Doumbouya, who currently appears set to win in the first round against challengers largely unknown to the broader public.
Myanmar began its 2025 general elections with the first phase on Sunday. The vote, spread across 3 phases, January 11th and January 25th, 2026, covers 692 constituencies, with around 5,000 candidates from 57 parties competing. The last general elections were held in November 2020. Protesters gathered in Tokyo to oppose Japan's record defense budget and call on Prime Minister Sanae Takaishi's government to curb military expansion. Local media reported Friday that the proposed budget for fiscal year 2026 is 9.04 trillion yen, or roughly $58 billion.
We oppose the Takeshi's administration's massive military buildup and its tough and belligerent rhetoric. The Liberal Democratic Party and its current coalition partner, the Japan Innovation Party, claim that expanding military buildup will bring peace, but they actually seek personal gains from the profits of the military-industrial complexes of Japan and the United States. This is wrong. They want to swiftly abolish Article 9 of the Constitution, while we must take action to protect it.
And finally, it's time to catch up on more international news stories in the News in Brief, this time with Karim Mustfawi and Sofian Kenturi. Let's follow.
Sudan's Minister of Cabinet Affairs Lamia Abdel Ghaffar said the Council of Ministers will resume work from Khartoum soon, ahead of the government's return to the capital before year's end. She confirmed Prime Minister Kamal Idris will assume his duties from Khartoum in the coming days.
In Afghanistan, Maulami Nouman, Assistant Director of the General Directorate of Intelligence, was reportedly killed in an explosion at his home. Media sources point to a gas leak as the cause, though local authorities have yet to confirm the details.
Protesters gathered in Tokyo to oppose Japan's record defense budget, calling on the government led by Prime Minister Sanae Takaishi to curb military expansion. Japan's proposed defense budget for fiscal year 2026 stands at a record 9.4 trillion yen, according to local media reports on Friday.
In sport, Algerian team kept its momentum alive in the 2025 African Cup of Nations with a hard 1-0 win over Burkina Faso on Sunday. Captain Riyad Mahrez converted the 23rd minute penalty to give the Desert Warriors the lead, which they held until the final whistle. Coach Vladimir Petkovic's side claimed their second win of the tournament, while Burkina Faso will now need a win on the final match day to keep their qualification hopes alive.
And that wraps up tonight's news. If you missed any stories or want the latest updates, you can always check our social media pages. From all of us here at All 24 News, thank you for watching and do take care.